Hello, and welcome back to the Be a Better You podcast. I am your host and emotional abuse recovery expert and subconscious healing coach, Allison K. Dagny. Now, the first thing I want to ask you before we dive in is, have you ever felt like if you just loved someone harder or did more for someone, that they'd finally love you back the way that you need? If only you could show them, right? Like maybe you've bent over backwards, you've given more than you could, only to feel like it's still not enough. So today we're going to dive into why loving people harder doesn't make them love you back and why it's time to let go of that pressure. So we're going to unpack some elements of codependency and the emotional toll of trying to earn other people's love and how to shift this dynamic for your healing, because self-love is really where we need to begin. Now, back a few episodes on November 26th, I talked about a personal, painful story of my own. And the theme was around why can't I ever be good enough? And in that story, which you can go back and listen to, and I highly encourage you to, I was really trying to earn my ex-husband. He's my ex-husband now, but my husband's love and approval and validation and acceptance and all the things at that time. And I thought by doing that, it would make him love me or make him love me more or see my value and treat me differently, right? Like if I was doing all these good things for him and all of these wonderful things for him, then of course he would see just how good I was and just how valuable I was. And then he would treat me appropriately, right? The problem was and I did this all the time in that marriage, but when I was giving all I had to that relationship and depleting myself more and more and more and more, ultimately, I never actually achieved what I had set out for. So if this sounds familiar, you're going to want to keep listening. I used to feel a lot of mixed emotions. Like I was hopeful that, if I give him an hour massage every year on his birthday, then he will somehow find the value in that and reciprocate by treating me nicely or by being better to me, being kinder to me, right? I also felt a lot of desperation. I just need to do more. I just need to try harder. I just need to be better, right? And then I had this realization, right? Because I was over there in my mind thinking, if I just showed more kindness or be quick to forgive his errors or mistakes, or was patient, or was not moody, or whatever it was, like if I just tried harder, then he would actually see my value and love me more. But instead, what happened was I was losing sight of my own value because I was giving so much and expecting in return things that were never going to be given to me. Now, I want to first do a quick little recap on codependency. Now, codependency is when we rely on other people for our own self-worth or our own happiness, and when we think that we can control the relationship dynamic by overgiving. Okay, so I want you to think of it like that, right? Where like, I can't be happy unless this other person is doing this for me, or I can't be worthy, or I can't feel good enough unless other people come visit me, or other people are treating me well, or other people are doing nice things for me, right? So that's where codependency is, when you are relying on other people for your own sense of self-worth or happiness. Now, let's talk quickly about why loving somebody harder, doing more in that way doesn't actually work. Number one, it's because love is not transactional, okay? Love should be something that flows naturally, not be earned, okay? When you have a child, you know when that baby is born that you love that baby. The baby didn't do anything. It just was born. Like, it just is. You love the baby regardless of what it's doing. It's crying, it's pooping, it's sleeping, right? You still love that baby. And that's what I'm talking about here, because there's no earning in that kind of relationship. It just flows naturally, okay? Number 2 is that over-loving can sometimes become smothering or can create resentment in the other person. So maybe you've been on the other end of this, where maybe you've had an over loving or smothering or helicoptering kind of parent, or friend or sibling or relationship partner, right? Where it feels like, oh my gosh, you're just being smothered, and you might start feeling resentful towards that other person. So maybe it's happened to you and you would understand how that can feel. The other thing, number 3, is that this kind of behavior, right? Like trying to do more, trying to love people harder, trying to show your value, show your worth in an effort to get them to love you, right? Often stems from childhood wounds, past relationships, different traumas and experiences, often feeling rejected or neglected. Those are the kinds of places that this will stem from. And there's no judgment about this, first of all, okay? So I just want you to understand that we're picking this apart so that you can actually stop doing things to earn other people's love, okay? So the whole title of this episode is You Can't Love People Harder into Loving You, right? People are going to love you, based on what you already are and what you're already doing. And if you feel like that you constantly have to do more or love them better or harder or whatever to be loved, well, that's something that probably needs to be inspected in that relationship. So let's talk about some scenarios that you might recognize either in yourself or other people, right? Maybe a friend who keeps trying to fix their partner by being overly supportive or overly forgiving, right? And I want you to think about this. Maybe you've been in a relationship like this where, let's say that the one partner is constantly doing harmful things to the other, right? Like one of your friends, boyfriends or girlfriends, is really quick to forgive. It's okay, I understand. Or they're really supportive of things that they're doing that maybe they shouldn't be doing, right? In an effort. Now, here's the key. In an effort to get the other person to love them. That's the thing that you have to inspect. Are you doing the things that you're doing out of just pure goodness of your heart, or are you doing it with an intention to get approval, to get love, or to get validation? That's the thing you really have to inspect. Why am I doing this? Am I doing it because I truly love this person and it doesn't matter if they love me back or not? Or if I do it, maybe they'll love me more. You could think about, let's say, someone who is always making like grand gestures in a relationship, or grand like romantic gestures and things like that, right? Buying their significant other gifts, or surprising them with trips, or like rearranging their life to accommodate the other person, right? But no matter how much this person gives, the other person never seems satisfied. Like, okay, whatever, like it's not, okay, great, right? Maybe it was never reciprocated even, and maybe that other person even started pulling away. Could be because that person felt smothered. Could feel like that person was doing it with a motive, that it maybe wasn't authentic, or maybe that the other person was trying to show their love by being like over the top, thinking it was going to bring them closer, but really it just pushed the other person away. And the thing to think about here is that if love in a relationship is feeling one-sided, it can create resentment or distance. So sometimes an example like an overgiving person who does this kind of thing often stems from their own insecurities and not a genuine connection, right? So again, if this relates to you, are you overgiving in a way that is coming from your own insecurities? Like, oh, I have to do this and this and this and this and this just to keep this person, or just to keep this person happy, or just to keep this person loving me, or to create a connection with them, right? So that's something to think about. maybe another example of this would be like being a peacekeeper. And this is obviously a codependency kind of behavior, but when you are doing everything that you can do to smooth things over when someone else gets upset, right? If they get angry or if they get frustrated or they get sad, and you hate conflict. So maybe you jump forward and you're apologizing for things that weren't even your fault. Like it could be a situation where you were even accused of something, maybe accused of being selfish because you wanted to go do something or you wanted to hang out with your friends. And you went ahead and canceled your plans. You spent the evening with them. You cooked them dinner. You apologized, right? And maybe deep down you felt really hurt and resentful, but believed that keeping the peace was more important than your own needs. So over time, you end up realizing that you're sacrificing your own happiness to keep a relationship that probably isn't really that healthy. Because why? You are not supposed to manage other people's emotions. And when you do that, because you are afraid of conflict or because you don't like conflict, you try to keep the peace. And a lot of times this will come from childhood experiences where parents have been fighting, or you're walking on eggshells to keep the peace because you don't want something bad to happen, or you don't want like a blow up or an argument or abuse or whatever, right? So these are just ways that your brain tries to keep you safe. But I think it's really important to understand these kinds of examples about how this could present for you. Another example of this would be like when you're trying to obviously prove your love and to get people to love you and that sort of thing, would be maybe being like a hopeful romantic. And what I mean by this is, let's say you're in a relationship with someone who's a little bit distant, like emotionally. They don't show a lot of affection. This could be a romantic partner. This could be a family member or a friend or whatever, right? If this person just seems a little distant, right? And maybe they're prioritizing other people over you, their friends, other family members, whomever, right? Prioritizing other people. If you're over there telling yourself, well, if I just love this person more, if I just shower them with compliments and plan outings and write heartfelt letters, like this is probably more like romance side, like this hopeful romantic kind of thing. But again, it can be relatable to family members or friends or whatever too, right? You could do these things for anybody in different ways. But if I do all these things, if I just love this person more, maybe they'll eventually open up to me. Maybe that we'll have a closer relationship, right? But you end up realizing that you're just pouring all of your love into somebody who isn't even willing to meet you halfway. And the thing is, love should be mutual, right? Whether it's romantic love or in a, parent-child relationship or friendship or whatever. And holding on to this hope that somebody else is going to be different or change can often lead to heartbreak, right? Because ultimately what's happening here in all these scenarios that I'm sharing with you is that we are expecting other people to change based on how we act. So if I do this or I do that, right? So we kind of have to eliminate the expectation when we are doing things for people. If we are being this overgiver, right? Again, why are we doing it? If we are trying to keep the peace, why? Are we doing it because we are just trying to avoid conflict? Are we doing it because we want that person to see us as ever compromising or easy to deal with and then they'll love us more, right? So you really have to inspect your motives for your behaviors and ask yourself, am I doing this because I want the other person to love me? Or am I doing this out of just genuine, pure love? And you have to be honest with yourself. You can't lie to yourself, truly, right? Like, I have experienced people like this in my life who I feel like that their behavior was laced in motive. And most people can tell. Like, most people know, like, if it's genuine or if it's for another reason. And so that's why I'm telling you it's so important to really check yourself and ask yourself, am I doing this for this person? Or am I doing it because I want them to love me more? And this is hard. Believe me, I understand, because I used to do this all the time. And it really, like, was almost a nail in my coffin. Thank God I got out when I did. But, you know, my whole life was centered around trying to make the other person love me more. If I do this, if I do that, you know, if I can shovel gravel while I'm pregnant, you know, he'll think I'm so strong. And he never made me sit down or take a rest, right? Like, the examples that I'm giving you here are because sometimes we do things when we are desperate to feel loved, when we are desperate to feel seen, heard, understood, validated. And I want you to know that that's going to be a very, very slippery slope in any relationship that you are in now or that you may be in the future. So you really need to be careful about it. Okay. Another example would be an emotional caretaker, like somebody who's always taking care of other people's emotions, trying to make them happy, trying to fix their problems, comforting other people, while also neglecting yourself in the process, right? So if I just help this person, if I just give them more advice, if I just, you know, guide them in the right direction, if I just do more for this person, right, then they're going to see my value and they're going to love me more. And it's important to support people, right? I'm not saying it's not important, but it's really not your job to carry other people's emotional burdens. And it's not your job to make that a priority for you. Because healthy relationships, quite frankly, allow for both people to grow on their own individually, right? You can grow with people together too, but like everybody knows the inner work has to come from that person. Like, you can't do somebody's inner work for them. You have to do it for yourself. So ultimately, loving people harder doesn't work. Okay? So if you find that you have done this or that you maybe are still doing it, I'm going to help you with this so that you can start to make some changes so that you don't get lost in the shuffle of this, right? Of seeking out other people's love and validation by trying to do more and love them harder, right? Because love is action, right? So if we act in loving ways towards people, that's a wonderful thing, right? It is a wonderful thing. But if we're acting in loving ways towards other people for a reason that is self-serving, is that really love? Okay? Just want you to think about that. Now, loving yourself first is key. This is foundational because when you value yourself and when you love yourself, you can stop relying on other people to validate you and to validate your worth, right? Yes, we all want love. We all want to be loved. We all want to be in loving relationships with everybody. But human beings are flawed and people are clouded by their own perceptions and their own beliefs and their own programming, right? So the key here is to start with yourself. Start by loving you. And other people might say, well, I don't know how to love myself. I don't know what to do. And I'm here to tell you, I have other episodes on this as well. But loving yourself means doing those things for yourself that you either do for others or that you want others to do for you. Okay? So what is it that you want? How do you want people to talk to you? Do you want people to be nice to you? Do you want people to speak sweetly to you? Do you want people to prioritize you? Do you want people to be honest with you? You have to do those things for yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to communicate nicely to yourself. You have to speak kind words to yourself, right? That's how you begin. You have to start there. Now, One thing that you can do to start to recognize unhealthy patterns for yourself is notice when you are doing these kinds of things, when you're overgiving or when you are, permitting things or being really patient or like whatever you're doing. Ask yourself why you're doing it. Why am I doing this? What's the motive? What's the true motive? And again, you have to be honest with yourself. There is no judgment here, right? And it doesn't make you a bad person if you don't do that thing for that person that you feel like that you need to do, okay? Sometimes the best gift we can give to other people is not doing things for them. I'm just going to say it. Sometimes if we do things for people, they can't learn for themselves. They can't learn the lessons. If you have children, you know this, right? If I'm always cleaning my kids' rooms for them, they're never going to learn how to clean their room, right? Is it loving that I clean their room? Sure. Is it kind? Absolutely. But is it actually good for them for me to always clean their room? Probably not, because now they don't know how to do it. See my point here? So ask yourself, why are you doing these things? Now, one other question I want you to really think about here and really pause, maybe even pause it now after I ask you this question is, what would happen if you gave yourself the love you're so freely giving to other people? If all that love just came to you, was just flooding into you, if all the kindness and all the priorities and all the communications and all the gifts and all the things, right? What if you were doing that for yourself? How would you feel? Now, one thing I want to say is, I know some people will say, I just love doing nice things for people. And I just love, it makes me feel good to do good things for other people. And there is definite science behind this. You are going to get a good feeling inside. Like if you've ever donated toys at a Christmas drive, or you've ever donated your time or done a fundraiser, yes, it feels good, right? Because you're helping people. That's a wonderful thing, right? I'm not saying it isn't. But what's the harm in giving yourself these things, right? Is it making you a martyr of sorts if you're the one that's always doing, giving, sacrificing, right? These are just really important questions to start to think about. There's no judgment here, and I know that this is going to land with whoever needs to hear it in the right way, okay? But you can love other people while still keeping your boundaries, protecting your energy, prioritizing your needs, your emotional well-being, right? This is all having empathy without that sacrifice. And I'm not saying you should not help people. I'm not saying you shouldn't be nice to people. You shouldn't be no, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying inspect why you're doing it. Be intentional. Okay, why am I doing this? Okay? Now, I want to give you some actionable takeaways here. I'm going to give you 3 steps to take. Number 1, reflect. Journal about a time that you tried to earn love. And again, go back and listen to that episode. I think what I said was on November 26th. Go back and listen to that one. It's titled, Why Can't I Ever Be Good Enough? A Painful Personal Story. Now, there's a listener disclaimer on that because it is a very difficult story. But if you're open to it, go back and listen to it and then see if it jogs anything for you. Journal about a time that you tried to earn love from someone. How did that feel? And you can go all the way back to your childhood, right? Like you were making things for your parents and it was just never good enough. And you were drawing things and doing little dances in the backyard or whatever, right? Go back as far as you need. Maybe it's just in the most recent relationship you've been in. But what were you doing? How did you try to earn someone else's love? And how did that feel? And I'm guaranteeing it doesn't feel that good because I've been there. But what did you need in that moment? What did you actually need? And when you're looking at this, you're going to say, well, I needed that person to say good job, or I needed that person to tell me I was worthy, or I needed that person to validate me or tell me I was good enough, or whatever, right? You're going to have to journal about this and just put all the words on paper and just see what comes out. Just reflect, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, here's another thing that you can do. is you can set boundaries. Practice saying no or stepping back or modifying your commitments when you feel that urge to overgive. And remember, sometimes not giving is actually a gift to the other person. Okay, like I said with my kids, and I'm sure you can think of other examples too, right? Not rescuing someone can help them learn. And often we think, oh, well, if I do this for them, they're going to love me. If I don't do it for them, they're not going to love me, right? And these are just the stories that we tell ourselves. We have to think about rewriting the stories. We write the stories for self-preservation to protect ourselves because we don't want to feel pain. We don't want to feel shame or disappointment or whatever that might be. So set yourself some boundaries. Like really ask yourself, do I have to say yes to this? Do I actually need to do this? Is this something I'm doing for me, for my own validation of love? Or is this something that I'm going to do for the other person, just out of genuine love and care? Okay. The third thing is to affirm your worth. Okay. Now, some people are like, well, I don't know how because I don't feel good enough. I actually have an online training called the I'm Worthy Immersion Program. It's a 7-week program that you can purchase on my website. It's self-paced. You can do it all by yourself and take as much time as you need, and you have lifetime access to it. But this kind of thing is in this program, what I'm going to explain to you. So you can't just tell yourself that you're worthy. You can't just look at yourself and be like, I am worthy, right? What you need to do is show your brain your worth based on your values, okay? So, and like I said, this is inside my program online, the I'm Worthy Immersion Program. But essentially what you will do is you will figure out what your personal values are. What do you truly value? Most people don't look at their values, but it's really, really important. So you want to look at your values, and let's say that your top value is honesty, okay? What you would do here is you would say, well, I'm worthy because I am honest. And then what you do is you show your brain specific times that you were honest. And I'm not just saying oh, I was honest in the 3rd grade. I was honest on my wedding day when I gave my wedding vows. And I was honest when I broke that vase in my mom's bathroom. No, I'm talking about getting into the details. When you broke that vase in your mom's bathroom, and you remember the glass shattering all over the floor, and you remember her banging on the door, and you had the door locked, and you were upset she was going to be so mad at you, and you were so scared, and you opened the door, and you were like, I broke the vase, Mom, and I'm so sorry, and it's my fault, blah, 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 right? And how she scooped you up and hugged you, or whatever. I don't even know the scenario, right? I'm just making this up off the top of my head. But my point is, you could see yourself in that bathroom with that vase, and you could see the details, okay? That's what your brain needs. Your brain cannot understand words. It does not understand plain old words like I am honest. It doesn't get it. So you can't just tell yourself I'm worthy and I'm honest without some proof and evidence in the form of visualization, analogies, description, and emotion. These are how the subconscious mind actually speaks and understands. So affirming your worth includes knowing your values and showing your mind that you value yourself by showing it the examples of times that you behaved and embodied the value, right? So it's not just about saying, I'm worthy, I'm good enough, I'm this, I'm that. No, it's saying, well, what makes me worthy? Well, I'm an honest person. Well, I'm a good communicator. Well, I have a lot of integrity. I am funny, right? Whatever it is that you value, that's what you are actually doing here. And a lot of people miss this. This is the kind of stuff I do in my coaching program. This is how I help people one-on-one, and we go really, really deep. And within 3 months, you are a changed person. And it seems like, 3 months is a very short period of time, but if you're putting the work in, like I do and my clients do, you're going to get results. So my real quick, again, reflect, journal, set boundaries, and affirm your worth using your values. Again, if you want to check out the I'm Worthy Immersion program online, you can do that. Check it out on my website at radiateN, the letter N, rise.com. But just as a recap here, you can't love someone into loving you, okay? But when you love yourself, the right kind of love will naturally flow to you. Like attracts like, okay? So when you love yourself, it is evident you love yourself. It's easier for people to love you in the ways that you want to be loved. So that's where we start, right? And even in my one-on-one program, the very, we establish a vision and we learn the 4-step thought reframing process to rewire your brain. But that very first lesson that we're learning is about self-worth and self-love, because that's the foundation. That's the foundation for healing. When you get that right, everything else comes way easier. Okay, so I'm going to encourage you to go back and listen to that other episode. Check out the I'm Worthy Immersion program online. And you can also, look at all the other things that I have on my website while you're there. But if any of this is resonating with you and you are ready to stop this overgiving in such a way, or not just even overgiving, but doing things for other people with an intention or motive to help them see your value or see your worth so that they will love you, and you're ready to start healing, then I would highly encourage you to either check out the offerings I have on my website or message me directly, because what I can do is you can kind of give me a little synopsis of your situation, because everyone's situation is different. So you can say, my situation isn't the exact same. Here's what it is. And I will tell you what I think would benefit you the most. And I'm not going to just sell you something to sell it to you. That would be stupid, because if I did that, and it's not going to help you, right? I'm going to say, okay, I actually think that my Break Free from Rumination course online, I think that would be a good place to start. Or I think being in a community because you don't have enough support around you would be a good place to start. Or I think you should go visit Caitlin Jorgensen's website because she's got strategy and that's what you need, right? I do that for people all the time. I'm not out here just trying to sell my products. I'm trying to connect people with the things that are going to benefit them the most. Because I know what it's like to spend thousands of dollars on therapy for 4.5 years of my life that truly didn't make a difference. Okay. Yes, I was able to connect dots. Yes, I was able to vent. Yes, I was able to get my emotions out, but it didn't change me. I was still getting triggered. I was still getting upset. Right. So I want you guys to have the resources that are going to benefit you the most. If that means it's a meditation, I'll point you towards the meditation. Just send me a message or send me an email. You can find me at Allison K. Dagney on Instagram and Facebook, or you can email me at allison@radiatenrise.com and I can respond there. So I just want you to leave you with this lasting thought. Pouring love into somebody else's empty bucket is not going to fill yours. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. I hope this episode has been helpful to you, and I hope you have a wonderful 2025. I may have a lot of really great episodes coming up in the new year, so please subscribe and share this podcast wherever you can, and I will talk to you next week.